Welcome to the Daily Word, verse by verse. Grab your Bibles and follow along as we study the book of Romans. Now, we are doing something different in that we're defining some words that's going to be pertinent to understanding what salvation is, what it means to be saved. So we're defining words. So these are different kinds of study, even though we're still in Romans chapter 3. And so last time we've already defined salvation. We already defined sin, sinner, sinful, and then death. That's the condition of man. That's why we need to be saved. The law, which is God's commandments, precepts, it's his requirements of right and wrong, his requirements that says this is what you need to know about being right before me. And not so much just the Jewish part of it. There's the Jewish part where it gets into the ceremonial part of the law, what God commanded Israel to perform, the worship part. But with the law, the greater application of the law is this is what morality is. This is what right and wrong is. Now, we talked about righteousness, that is being right with God, and that's important when we get back to these, get back to our study in Romans 3, because remember, no one will be justified in his sight. He said, no one will be justified in his sight by the deeds of the law. And I'm getting ready to get into defining the word just in a moment. Now, so this is all what God has done for us. This is all the work of God. So understanding these words will cause us to understand. Again, clearly, they should register when we read them, and it's going to, if it register, you're going to be in awe of God's love and grace. All right. So we said righteousness is right standing with God. God's requirements for you to be okay with him, to be all right. You know, sometimes people may get into a tiff and they may say, are we good? Well, what does that mean to God? Sin calls us not to be good. Sin calls us to be enemies. Okay? So what does it take to be right with God? What are his requirements? Okay, to be right with him, because we're sinners. So automatically we're unacceptable. We're sinners. Now, the next set of words is justification, justify, and just. Okay? Again, important words, because justification, or to justify, now remember, we're not right with God. We are sinners before God, therefore we are stamped rejected, unacceptable, marked for judgment, marked for eternal separation from God. That's what we're in God's mind. Mankind is rejected because of Adam's sin. But God also had an eternal plan. He's going to make man right with him. He's going to bring man back into a right standing with him. That is justification. The word just or justification is the act of making someone right. In our judicial system, you commit a crime, you are no longer in right standing with God. With society. Okay? So let's say you rob a bank. So at that point, you committed a crime. You are no longer in right standing with God. You will be arrested. You will be removed from society, placed in jail. Your rights will be revoked. So then you go to trial. Right? And the charges are read against you. The prosecutor will lay out a case against you. Your defense lawyer will defend those charges, defend you against those charges. And in the end, the judge will render a judgment. So let's say the judgment says, okay, you're going to spend 5 years in jail. Then you go to prison, you spend 5 years in jail. When you finish those 5 years, you would have completed that process, that judicial process. So then that is justification. You went through this entire process, and at the end you go free, okay? You are free to rejoin society. That's justification. So justification is the act of God to make us right in his eyes. And I want to emphasize it is the act of God, not us. And that's why, again, in Romans 3 and in 20 says, for no one would be justified in his sight by the works of the law. So no good deeds. This is extremely important. No good deeds can make you right before God. No good deeds can make you right before God. Now, some of the means that God used to make us right, this word redemption. Again, if you kind of go back to the legal system, some of you all have coupons that you redeem. Now, the word redeem means to buy back or to buy out. So let's say, for example, a slave. Someone comes along and says, I'm going to buy a slave. I'm redeeming the slave. Okay, so I'm going to remove the slave from this service. Okay, maybe this guy, excuse me, maybe a guy takes pity. And by the way, in the Roman world, slavery is not unique, of course, to the American experience. Slavery has been around since man. All of man's history, slavery has been an integral part of that. You can even probably say, in some respects, probably more people have been enslaved than free. But at any rate, let's say you had a system of slavery, and a person takes pity on you, and they say, okay, I want to buy this slave because I want them. You're mistreating them. So they strike a deal. By the way, slavery is ungodly, and slavery is inhumane. And there are some questions, I will admit, why in the Hebrew scriptures God allowed slavery. I can't answer that question. But anyway, let's suppose a person buys this person and says, I'm going to liberate this person, but they buy them. I don't like the way that master is treating the slave. He buys him, and he buys him out of slavery. And by the way, in the Roman world, there were, I think, 3 different kinds of ways a slave can go free. A slave could go free by buying his way out of slavery. Okay, he buys his way out of slavery. Another application is he can buy his way out of slavery. He'll be totally free. And by the way, and then he could never go back into slavery again. He can never go back into slavery again. And another person, he buys himself out of slavery and he becomes a citizen, a full-fledged citizen. This word redemption covers those 3. And what Jesus done for that. Jesus buys us out of the condition of slavery, of sin and death. And when he buys us out of the condition of sin and death, we can never go back. We're never going back to its clutches. Okay? Now, by the way, redemption does that, to buy back. And that's why I use this word redemption. Let's see. I'm going to pick this up in the next video because I'm going to get into the word propitiation. And because this word, I like this word, how it is usually transliterated, meaning the word propitiation kind of carries over. The meaning is important. Now, some of your translations may say atoning sacrifice. Okay? Atoning sacrifice. Either way, okay, we should know what it means. So we'll get into it in the next video. I'll see you then.